Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. We're there under 24 hours for game 1 of 82 for the Utah Hockey Club. This season will be underway. I cannot wait against the Chicago Blackhawks. The rosters are in, so this is the roster for the Utah Hockey Club for this season. We got 2 injuries, which is making some of these lineup pairings and what have you a bit disjointed, some a bit to my dislike, especially on the defensive end. But let's get into the forwards. It's the classic Keller, Hayden, and Schmaltz line. Captain Keller, I need to be calling him from now on. Second line is McBain, Cooley, and Gunther. In my roster preview in the summer, I had Krause with Cooley and Gunther. That's because they ended the season last year with that trio, and that really ignited Gunther and Cooley, who had exceptional endings to their season last year. They decided to go with McBain, a bit of a younger Krause, but plays the same style of hockey, gritty, power forward, goes to the dirty areas, will create space for Gunther and Cooley, and will fight. McBain fights, and when he fights, man, it's a pummeling. He wins most of the fights McBain initiates. It's a bit rarer, for sure rarer than O'Brien, that McBain fights, but he's got it in him. He had a bit of a downswing last year that I personally didn't like. I was a bit underwhelmed with McBain, but hopefully playing with skilled guys like Cooley and Gunther should reignite him. He's roommates with Gunther, and if you've been following on Twitter and social media, they have like fun Costco stories. So it's great to see some behind the scenes of teammates being friends in real life as well. Third line should have been Michelli, Bukestad, and Krause, the classic magic third line that gave the Coyotes so much secondary scoring the past few seasons, but unfortunately Bukestad is injured at the moment. He's slated to return sometime in November, along with the other injury to Marino, which is a bigger one than Bukestad, because at least with Bukestad we have depth in the center position. You have Kerfoot, Stenlund, and like I said in a previous video, McBain could also play center. And if, last resort, the nuclear option, Nick Schmaltz can also play center, but hopefully we never get to see that. Fourth line, I got Yamamoto, who just got signed to a contract yesterday by Utah. He was on a professional tryout. He earned his way onto the roster. He had a great preseason. He had about 3 points in 4 games. He played well wherever he was in the lineup. Some games he was playing with Keller, Gunther, but I have him on the fourth line. I understand it looks a bit weird, but there's nowhere in the top 9 right now for Yamamoto to slot in. Let's say McBain doesn't work as well with Cooley and Gunther that Turney wants him to work well. If he doesn't work as well enough as Turney is hoping he would, maybe Yamamoto could slot in with Cooley and Gunther. Yamamoto's a small statured forward who plays that big game, even though he's not a big body. To me, Yamamoto and Carcone are like the same players. Yamamoto's 5'8", Carcone's 5'9". Carcone's 28. Yamamoto's 26, but even though Yamamoto is 2 years younger, he's got 300 games played in the NHL, whereas Carcone only has 100 games played in the NHL, and they're both 20 goal scorers. So Yamamoto and Carcone, I could interchange them. It's unfortunate that Carcone, who is a 20 goal scorer, I'm deeming as a healthy scratch along with O'Brien, but the fact that he earned a spot on the roster, he signed a contract, he has to be playing. They're not going to sign him and just put him in the press box. So it's going to be some good, healthy internal competition between Yamamoto and Carcone. And then O'Brien, I think O'Brien will play opening night for sure. Spicy tuna, he's a fan favorite. They have like food items that's spicy tuna. Maybe they got some plushie toys that's spicy tuna. So I could confidently say O'Brien will probably play opening night in Utah, but I think moving forward, they got that 4-game road trip right after their home opener against the Islanders, Rangers, Devils, and the Ducks. You're going to start to see Yamamoto and Carcone start to take more games played than O'Brien. And Josh Stone has made the team. For me, I got an expectation for him I'll move on to that later. But so great to see Doan make the roster out of training camp. He had a great camp. The coach loves talking about him. He just plays hockey the right way along with Stenlund. Like all four of these lines can score goals and be threatening offensively. I think for the first time in a long time, there's no anchors on this team. There's no one that's like, okay, he's only there because they're rebuilding, or they're just giving him a chance, or they need warm bodies to fill up some roster spots. You got some great competition for every single position in this forward core. Then we go to the defense, which I'm a bit soured about due to Marino's injury. He was injured all throughout training camp. The expectation for him may be late October or November, but the top pairing of Sergachev and Durzi was played with a lot during the preseason. Then it's Valimaki and Kesselring. I do not like seeing Kesselring there on the second pairing. Kesselring to me is a great third pairing defenseman, or if anything, a good insurance defenseman to have as their seventh D-man, especially if you're a playoff team. Kesselring's going to be in the press box. If anything, he's your sixth D. He shouldn't be a second pairing. He shouldn't be on your second pairing, but I understand with Marino's injury, they got to put someone there. Hopefully he rises to the occasion and he does a good job. And then on the third pairing, you have Ian Cole, who's really old, a veteran. He shouldn't be playing every single game, but due to the Marino's injury, he's going to be forced to play every game. And then paired with Bortuzzo, who is an NHL fringe defenseman. So the defense already, before we even played a game, is experiencing some concerns. And hopefully they just work well together. And if someone's not pulling their weight like Bortuzzo, you have Kolyachonok, who is also a bit of an NHL fringe, but he's way younger than Bortuzzo. He's got some upside to him. He could come in for Cole if, he can't play back-to-back games or they're on a long road trip and he needs some rest. Kolyachonok is there. But yeah, very unfortunate that Marino's injured, causing some disjointedness in the defensive pairings. Would have been nice if we had Soderstrom. I'm sure he could have slotted in somewhere here. Maybe Soderstrom should have waited a couple weeks before moving to Europe, and he would have probably had a roster spot on Utah. And then goalies, very easy. Ingram and Vejmelka. Ingram should be the starter, and he will be. He's better than Vejmelka. Showed a lot of promise last year, especially the first half of the season. Just I hope Ingram does not get injured this year. I said it in a video earlier in the summer, like if there's one injury to this team to derail the season in an unfortunate way, it would be an injury to Connor Ingram. Before I get to expectations, let's wrap up the preseason. They went 4 wins, 2 losses. I thought, what I've read, I only watched one game. I do not like the preseason, but I did tune in for that home game against LA, the first ever NHL preseason game for Utah. That was a great game to watch. The power play went 32%, which is amazing during the preseason. PK was 79%, which is great. A huge step forward from what they're usually at, around 75. But shots on goal per game were about 25. It's too low, and I need that bumped up. It's in my expectations. And one more time, before moving on to the expectations, Tuesday night against Chicago, it's going to be a very important night for Utah hockey fans, but it seems eerily similar to me. It feels like I've experienced this before as a Coyotes fan, but on the opposite end. So you have the Chicago Blackhawks coming into town in Salt Lake City. It's a rebuilding team, Chicago is. They just injected a bunch of veterans. We've seen that before, us Coyotes fans. 7 years ago, it was Vegas's inaugural home opener game. Coyotes come into town. They're a rebuilding team. They just injected some veteran leadership into their roster, like Antti Ranta, Derek Stepan, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, Alex Goligoski. They come into Vegas. It was an electric opening ceremony, and then immediately they went down 4-0 in the first 10 minutes of that game. The Coyotes did. So I'm not saying I'm expecting a 4-0 lead by Utah to start the game against the Blackhawks. I'm just saying they could really ride that momentum and excitement from the crowd and just the emotions. They could ride it and have an exciting game and really put pedal to the metal. I know I might be getting ahead of myself. Maybe it's a bit of a dud of a game, which I don't think it will be, and hopefully it's not. But I just felt that that was interesting, that I feel like I've been on the other side of it, of going into a new town, their first home opening game of their franchise. So just thought I'd throw that in there. So then we'll go to expectations. Number one, where will they be in terms of standings? My expectation for Utah is to not be a playoff team. I feel like that's a bit too high of an expectation, but to be right there. They need to be playing meaningful games in March and April. Every game needs to matter just for this franchise and team to realize that they're in this and it's up to them to make the playoffs. It's not relying on other teams to be bad. So I think fourth in the Central is fine. If anything, they probably finish fifth, but I like the expectation of finishing fourth. I feel like Dallas and the Avalanche have the top two spots already taken up. That third spot could be up for grabs. Maybe Nashville, maybe Winnipeg, maybe even Utah. I don't think so. But fourth in the Central, many people would say that's a playoff spot because they don't see the Pacific Division taking 5 spots in the West, taking up those 2 wildcard spots. But I'm not concentrating on the Pacific, only the Central. This is me. This is my expectation. I expect them to be in it to the very end, into the last week of April, and just slightly miss out on the playoffs. Some stats which I want for them to improve on is they need to have an average penalty kill and average face-offs. I'm not expecting top 10 in the league. I just want average. They haven't been average in so long in these stats. Also average shots on goal, which they're always last place in the league under Andre Tourigny. They fixed their penalty killing in the offseason by getting Marino, Stenlund, and Sergachev. They fixed their face-offs by getting Stenlund, hopefully a healthy Hayden, a healthy Bukestad, a more experienced Cooley. They have Kerfoot. Maybe they just train better on face-offs. And average shots on goal, they're more offensively threatening than they were last year. Everyone's a year older on the young side, and Keller's a year older. Cooley, Gunther's a year older. Now you have Josh Stone in the lineup full-time. So they should be shooting the puck more, generating more offense, holding on to the puck more, having more possession, and that should lead to better stats on the board, hopefully. And then the home experience, a bit subjective to really measure, but I just want the crowd to be electric every game. You're coming from Mullet Magic. The Mullet Arena experience really drove home the points and the wins for the Coyotes teams. In the first year at Mullet, they only had 7 wins on the road and 21 wins at home. They were so electric at home. The atmosphere they just fed on gave them the motivation. I want the Delta Center to be loud. I want the players to love playing there. I want them to see big sold-out crowds. I want the in-arena music to be pumping, to be good hockey music. You know, they just announced the mascot today, which is apparently the Jazz Bear from the Utah Jazz. That's fun. Hopefully does some fun gimmicks and in-arena sort of gimmicks and fun little things that the camera shows, and we all laugh and have a smile on our face. Howler was a great mascot for the Coyotes, so a bit of a tough shoes to fill there. And then some individual stats I have listed. I have the same stats as last year for my expectations for the top line. I had Keller at 80 points, Schmaltz at 70, Hayden at 50. Keller almost made it. He had 76, Schmaltz had 61, and obviously Hayden was injured. But these are pretty not as high bars and not low bars. They're middle of the road bars for these 3 players. They're manageable to exceed. I want Sergachev to hit 50 points. Only one season he's had where he had over 50 points. I want Cooley to maintain that 20-goal season. I don't want any steps back with Cooley and Gunther. I want Cooley to get 20 goals like he did last year. I'm not hoping for 30. Gunther, I expect 25 because he had 18 goals in 45 games played last year. And on an 82 game pace, that's about, 33 goals? Yeah, that's 33 goals in a full season. So I brought it down to 25. I want Josh Doan to play 50 games this season. I want him in the lineup. I want him to prove to the coaching staff, to management, to fans that he deserves to be an NHL player. He plays the right way and he doesn't make too many mistakes. He's reliable. This is his year to be, I'm an NHL player, and he doesn't need to think about the Tucson Roadrunners ever again. Just like guys like Michelli and Gunther, they've made that progression. Same with Hayden and Krause. They don't even think about the American Hockey League anymore. And Connor Ingram, I want him to get 27 wins. Last year, he had 23 wins, so it's only a 4-win difference, but inching closer to that 30-win mark should be starting numbers for Ingram. Hopefully the shadow wasn't too distracting as I see it on my camera. But that's it. We're there. It's finally hockey time, which I love. It's my favorite part of the season is just watching hockey and seeing how these guys perform. I'm excited. Honestly, I think my expectations are pretty high compared to when I listened to Bill Armstrong talk, who's like, we're still in a rebuild, be patient. But there's so much good stuff here. The defense is a bit concerning right now. Hopefully Marino gets healthy, gains some chemistry. He missed a training camp with a new team, new system. That's very unfortunate and a bit of bad luck for the Utah team, but I'm trying not to let that discourage me. I'm just excited and I can't wait for Tuesday night. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.